Since you're just the secretary, Amanda sneered, adjusting her designer blazer, you'll need to leave the board meeting. We're discussing sensitive matters today. I maintained my composure, keeping my expression neutral as I straightened papers on the conference room table. My sister had always been like this, determined to prove her superiority, especially since she'd made junior partner at her law firm. Actually, I began, but she cut me off with a dismissive wave. James, I know you're proud of your little job here at Davidson Corp., but this is a meeting with the CEO. Real business matters. Why don't you go grab us some coffee? Her smirk widened as she glanced at her Rolex dad's gift for making partner. If only she knew. For 3 years I'd let my family believe I was just an executive assistant at Davidson Corporation. It was easier that way. Let them think I was the underachiever while I built something extraordinary. Something they couldn't meddle with or try to control. Amanda, I said calmly, I don't think, oh look, she brightened as the conference room door opened. Here's Mr. Davidson now. The tall man who entered wore an impeccably tailored suit and carried himself with quiet authority. Amanda smoothed her skirt and extended her hand. Mr. Davidson, I'm Amanda Porter from Porter and Mitchell Law. We spoke on the phone about the merger. The man's eyes crinkled with amusement as he looked between us. Actually, I'm Michael Thompson, the CFO. He turned to me. The board is ready when you are, sir. Amanda's hand froze mid-extension. Sir? I straightened my own designer suit, not that she'd ever noticed it wasn't from a department store, and picked up my tablet. Thank you, Michael. Please show the board members in. The color drained from Amanda's face as 12 distinguished executives filed into the room, each nodding respectfully in my direction. You, she stammered. James Davidson, I supplied helpfully. CEO and majority shareholder of Davidson Corporation. Though you can still call me just the secretary if you prefer. She sank into a chair as realization dawned. The company she'd been trying to partner with, the $4.2 billion technology giant that her law firm desperately wanted as a client, was mine. But you're my little brother, she whispered. You work in an office doing paperwork. I do work in an office, I agreed, taking my seat at the head of the table. This office, running the company I built from the ground up while you and mom and dad were busy bragging about your law degree. The board members were settling in, pulling out documents and tablets. Most of them knew the story. How I'd started Davidson Corp in my garage. How I'd revolutionized supply chain technology. How I'd grown it into a global powerhouse. They also knew why I'd kept it quiet from my family. Mr. Davidson, my actual executive assistant, entered. Your parents are in the lobby. They're quite insistent about joining the meeting. Of course they were. Amanda must have called them the moment she'd arrived at the building. Send them in, I sighed. Might as well get this all over with at once. Mom burst in first, Dad right behind her. They froze at the sight of me at the head of the table. James, Mom's voice quavered. What's going on? Amanda said. Everyone, I addressed the board. Please excuse this brief family moment. We'll begin the meeting shortly. The executives nodded understandingly. They'd all heard about my family's interesting dynamics. Mom, Dad, I gestured to the empty chairs. Please sit. Amanda can fill you in on her discovery that her little secretary brother is actually the CEO she's been trying to schedule a meeting with for months. CEO, Dad's knees seemed to wobble. But you're just what, Dad? I kept my voice level. Just the son who wasn't good enough for law school. Just the disappointment who chose business over following Amanda into the family firm. Just the kid you told would never amount to anything working with computers. Amanda found her voice. This is impossible. Davidson Corp is worth billions. $4.2 billion, at last valuation, I confirmed. Though with the new contracts we're announcing today, that number should rise significantly. Mom clutched her designer purse. The one Amanda had bought her with her first law firm bonus. I don't understand. All these years, I continued. I let you believe what you wanted to believe. It was easier than listening to more lectures about how I was wasting my potential, about how I should have followed the family traditions of law school. But, Dad struggled. Your office when we visited was the executive assistant's office. Yes, I let you think it was mine, because it fit your narrative. The same way I let you think my home was a modest condo instead of the penthouse I actually own. The same way I let Amanda brag about her firm's attempt to land Davidson Corp as a client, never mentioning that I'd been rejecting their proposals for months. Amanda's face reddened. You've been rejecting us. But why? Because your firm's reputation for aggressive tactics and questionable ethics doesn't align with our corporate values. I picked up a folder. Speaking of which, this meeting isn't actually about a merger. It's not. She looked confused. No, it's about your firm's attempted hostile takeover of one of our subsidiaries. The one you've been orchestrating while pretending to pursue a partnership. The blood drained from her face again. How did you know? I smiled slightly. Amanda, I own the bank that's been financing your firm's moves. I own the real estate company you've been using as a front. I even own the private investigator firm you hired to dig up dirt on our board members. Dad sank into a chair. This is a lot to take in. I supplied. Imagine how I felt all these years, listening to you praise Amanda's every minor achievement while dismissing my entire career as playing with computers. The Christmas party, Mom whispered. Last year, when you said you had to work, I was closing a $500 million acquisition, the one that made international news. Amanda, you actually commented on the story at dinner, never realizing your secretary brother was the CEO being quoted. The board members watched with barely concealed interest. Most of them had been with me for years, had watched me build this company while maintaining my family's misconceptions. Mr. Davidson, Michael interrupted gently. The Asian markets open in an hour. We should proceed. Of course. I straightened my papers. Mom, Dad, you're welcome to stay. Amanda, I met her eyes. You might want to call your managing partner. Explain why Davidson Corp won't be requiring your firm's services after all. James, please, she started, but I held up a hand. The time for favors is past. Just like the time for pretending I'm less than I am to protect your ego. I turned to the board. Now shall we discuss the Thompson merger? As the meeting began, I watched my family trying to process their new reality. The son they'd dismissed had built an empire. The brother they'd belittled was now holding their professional fate in his hands. Oh, and Amanda, I added casually, next time you call someone just a secretary, remember this moment. Remember how it felt to discover that appearances can be deceiving. The board meeting proceeded smoothly after that. We discussed acquisitions, market strategies, and global expansion. With each presentation, each decision, I could see my family's understanding of who I really was shifting dramatically. When it ended 2 hours later, they remained seated as the executives filed out, each shaking my hand respectfully. All this time, Dad finally said, You thought what you wanted to think. I finished. That success only looks one way. That following Amanda's path was the only route to achievement. That your son who chose a different road must have failed. Why didn't you tell us? Mom's voice trembled. Would you have believed me? You never did before. I stood straightening my jacket. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a video call with our Tokyo office. Amanda Security will show you out. Do give my regards to your managing partner, James. Amanda called as I reached the door. I'm sorry for everything. I paused, looking back at my family. The sister who'd just discovered her little brother was a corporate titan. The parents who were realizing they'd misjudged their son for years. I know you are, I said quietly. But sometimes sorry isn't enough. Sometimes you have to live with the consequences of underestimating people. As I walked to my real office, the corner suite on the top floor with its view of the city I'd helped shape, I couldn't help but smile slightly. Years of careful misdirection had finally ended. The truth was out, and maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see me for who I really was. Not just the secretary, but the architect of something extraordinary. The fallout was immediate and far-reaching. By evening, Amanda's law firm had called 3 times, desperately trying to salvage their relationship with Davidson Corp. My parents had left 17 voicemails, each more apologetic than the last. And my sister, she'd retreated to her office, probably trying to figure out how she'd missed the signs all these years. I sat in my penthouse that evening, watching the city lights flicker below. The same view I'd never shown them, preferring to maintain the illusion of my modest lifestyle. My phone buzzed again. Amanda's managing partner this time. Mr. Davidson. Michael stepped onto the terrace. The Tokyo deal is complete, and your sister is in the lobby. Of course she was. Amanda never could leave well enough alone. Send her up, I sighed. Might as well get this over with. When she stepped out of the private elevator, her reaction to the penthouse was almost worth the drama. Gone was the smug lawyer, who'd dismissed me hours earlier. This Amanda looked small, uncertain. This is where you live. She wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows. All this time, I confirmed, not moving from my position. While you were bragging about your corner office at the firm, I was building this. While you were showing off your luxury car, I was buying the dealership. James, she turned, and I saw tears in her eyes. I don't even know where to start. How about with why you're here? She sank onto one of the designer chairs, pieces I'd personally selected, though she'd always assumed I had no taste for luxury. The managing partner wants to retire early. He was grooming me to take over, but the firm's biggest potential client just revealed that your brother is the CEO you've been trying to land, and you insulted him publicly. They're furious, she whispered, not just about losing Davidson Corp, but about the hostile takeover attempt I orchestrated. How did you know about that? I smiled slightly, pulling up documents on my tablet. You really think I wouldn't monitor attempts to undermine my company? Here's you meeting with investors. A photo appeared. Here's the shell company you created. Another document. Here's the trail of your firm's machinations, all of which I've known about for months. You were playing me, she realized. All those times I mentioned the firm's interest in Davidson Corp. I was watching you dig yourself deeper, I confirmed, wondering if my sister would ever show an ounce of integrity. But you just kept pushing, kept scheming, while you pretended to be a secretary, she said bitterly. No, Amanda, I never pretended. You assumed. There's a difference. I stood, walking to the wine cabinet, and selecting a bottle worth more than her monthly salary. Wine. She nodded numbly, watching as I poured 2 glasses of the exceptional vintage. The amusing thing is, I continued, if you'd ever bothered to actually look into Davidson Corp., you'd have found me. My name's on all the public filings, my photos in the annual reports, but you were so convinced of my mediocrity that you never even checked. Mom and Dad are probably still trying to process that their disappointing son is worth more than their entire law firm. I handed her a glass. How does it feel, by the way, discovering that your little brother, the one you've looked down on for years, could buy and sell your entire career without blinking? She took a shaky sip. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Honestly, yes, but not for the reasons you think. I settled back in my chair. I'm enjoying it because maybe now you'll finally see what I've been trying to show our family for years. That success doesn't always wear a lawyer's suit. The managing partner wants me to resign, she said quietly. Says I'm a liability now. He's right. I pulled up more documents. Your takeover attempt was clumsy, left paper trails, the kind of mistakes that could get the firm investigated if someone wanted to push it. Her hand trembled. Are you going to? That depends. On what? On whether my sister is finally ready to learn some humility, to understand that her way isn't the only way to succeed. The city sparkled beyond the windows, a testament to what I'd built while she'd been dismissing me. Amanda stared into her wine glass, probably seeing her carefully planned future crumbling. I could help you, I said finally. Not save your position, that's gone. But I could give you something better. She looked up sharply. What do you mean? Davidson Corp. Needs new legal representation. A fresh team, built from the ground up. Someone to handle our interests with integrity, not underhanded schemes. You trust me with that. After everything? Trust? No. But I'd give you the chance to earn it. I pulled out a contract. Your own firm, separate from Davidson Corp., but handling our legal work exclusively. You'd answer to our board, not me. Every decision would be scrutinized. One ethical misstep, and it's over. She picked up the contract with trembling hands. This is a chance to rebuild. To prove you can be more than what mom and dad programmed you to be. I stood, walking to the windows. The same chance I gave myself when I stopped trying to fit their mold. Why would you do this for me, after how I've treated you? Because you're my sister, and because sometimes people need to lose everything to see what really matters. The elevator dinged again. This time our parents stepped out, freezing at the sight of the luxury surrounding them. James, mom's voice broke. This is incredible. This is what your disappointment built, I replied calmly. While you were telling everyone about Amanda's law career, I was creating something extraordinary. Dad moved to the windows, staring at the city below. Son, we were wrong. Yes, you were, about a lot of things. I turned to face them fully. But now you have a choice. All of you do. You can either accept that success comes in many forms, or you can leave. Either way, I'm done hiding who I am to make you comfortable. Amanda held up the contract. He's offering me a chance to start over, to build something of my own. But your law career, mom started, is over. I finished for her. The question is whether she's ready to build something better, something based on integrity, not just ambition. Dad sat heavily on the sofa, looking older than his years. All this time, we pushed you both so hard to follow our path. Never saw that you were blazing your own. No, you didn't. I poured more wine. But maybe now you can see us both clearly. Amanda with her fresh start, me with my empire. Empire, Mom whispered, looking around the penthouse. Our son built an empire, while we were criticizing his choices. The city lights twinkled below, a constellation of possibilities. In one day, everything had changed. The family dynamic, the power structure, the understanding of what success really meant. So, I looked at Amanda. Are you ready to learn? To build something real this time? She met my eyes, and for the first time I saw respect there. Real respect, not the condescension she'd always shown before. Yes, she said quietly, I'm ready to learn from my little brother, and maybe that was the biggest victory of all. 6 months after the revelation at Davidson Corp., I watched through my office window as Amanda led her first major client meeting. She changed fast. No more designer suits worn like armor. No more arrogant smirks. Instead, she carried herself with a quiet confidence earned through genuine accomplishment. Her new legal firm, though technically independent, operated under strict oversight from Davidson Corp's board. Every decision, every contract, every move was scrutinized. It had been a humbling experience for her, starting over at 40 with her younger brother essentially as her boss. Mr. Davidson, Michael entered with the quarterly reports. Your sister's team just saved us $40 million on the European merger. Clean, ethical, and completely transparent. I nodded, unsurprised. Amanda had thrown herself into rebuilding her reputation, working harder than she ever had at her old firm. The hunger to prove herself, to me, to our parents, to herself, had transformed her approach to law. Sir, Michael hesitated. Your parents are here. They don't have an appointment, but send them in. They entered cautiously, still adjusting to this new reality where their underachieving son commanded a global empire. Mom no longer wore her designer clothes like badges of success. Dad had stopped comparing everyone to legal standards. James' mom stepped forward. We just came from Amanda's office. She's different. Success looks different when you earn it honestly, I replied, gesturing for them to sit. Coffee, please. Dad settled into a chair, looking around my real office, not the assistant's space they'd once visited. She told us about the European deal, said she did it the right way this time. She did. I handed them their drinks. No shortcuts, no schemes, just solid legal work. Because of you, Mom said quietly, you gave her a second chance. I gave her what you never gave me, the opportunity to succeed on her own terms. I sat behind my desk, the city sprawling behind me through floor-to-ceiling windows. She just needed to lose everything to appreciate it. And we needed to lose our illusions, Dad added, to see both our children clearly. A knock interrupted us. Amanda stood in the doorway, holding a stack of documents. Sorry, she started to retreat. I didn't know. Come in, I called. We were just discussing your European success. She entered, no longer the imperious lawyer who'd once dismissed me as just a secretary. 6 months of earning her way had stripped away the pretense. The board approved my proposal for restructuring the legal department, she said, placing the documents on my desk. Completely merit-based advancement, ethical oversight at every level, mandatory transparency reports. Good. I reviewed the papers. And the old cases from your previous firm. She flushed slightly. I've provided full documentation of every questionable tactic they used. The authorities have enough to launch an investigation if they choose. Mom gasped. Amanda, you reported your old firm. She did the right thing, I said firmly. Something she learned these past 6 months. Something I learned from my little brother. Amanda corrected quietly, along with many other lessons. I studied her, really studied her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple professional attire. The arrogant bearing had softened into quiet confidence. Even her voice had changed, losing its condescending edge. Sit. I gestured to the remaining chair. Family meeting. She sat, no longer the star lawyer looking down on her secretary brother, but a professional who'd learned to respect true achievement. 6 months ago, I began. This family was built on illusions. Amanda's perceived success. My assumed failure. I looked at our parents' rigid definition of achievement. Today we're different, because you showed us the truth. Dad said. No, I corrected, because you finally chose to see it. The truth was always there. In my public filings, in my company's success, in the empire I built while you were too busy praising Amanda's law career to notice. I was horrible to you, Amanda admitted, all those years treating you like I was beneath you. I smiled slightly. While I owned the building your firm operated in. That's what I still don't understand. Mom leaned forward. Why hide it? Why let us believe? Because I needed to build this my way. I gestured to the office, the view, the empire beyond. Without your interference, your expectations, your demands that I follow the family path. And because I wanted to see who you really were. How you treated someone you thought was beneath you. They absorbed that in silence, perhaps remembering every dismissive comment, every comparison to Amanda's success, every time they'd look down on my little computer job. The lesson wasn't just for Amanda, I continued. It was for all of us. About integrity, about true achievement, about seeing people clearly. And now? Dad asked quietly. Now we build something new. A family based on truth, not pretense. Achievement earned, not assumed. I turned to Amanda. You're doing well. The board is impressed. She straightened, and I saw a flash of the old pride. But different now, earned rather than entitled. I'm learning, every day. From your little brother. I teased gently. From the CEO who gave me a second chance, she corrected. And from the brother I should have respected all along. Mom wiped away tears. Both are children, successful in their own ways. Both? I raised an eyebrow. I'd say the scales are still tipped significantly in one direction. I pulled up my company's latest valuation on the screen behind me. Their eyes widened at the numbers. But it's not about that anymore, is it? I continued. It's about building something real, something lasting. Amanda nodded. Something honest. Speaking of honest, I pressed a button on my desk. Michael? He entered carrying a familiar folder, the one containing evidence of Amanda's past schemes. I took it and, to their surprise, fed it through the shredder. That's your copy of the evidence, I told Amanda. You've earned its destruction. The board agrees. She stared at the shredded papers, understanding the significance. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I smiled. You've still got years of proving yourself ahead, but at least now you're on the right path. As our parents left later, Amanda lingered. You know what the hardest part was? She asked suddenly. What? Realizing that while I was playing at success, you were actually achieving it. Every time I dismissed you, looked down on you, treated you like a secretary, you were just revealing who you really were. I finished. But that person's gone now. She nodded, looking out at the city, where her brother's influence touched nearly every major building. Thanks to my little brother, who turned out to be a giant. No, I corrected gently. Thanks to yourself, finally choosing to become something better. The sun set over the city. We both now helped shape MIT, her through honest legal work, me through the empire I'd built. Different paths, different achievements, but finally real. 1 year after the revelation, I stood at the podium during Davidson Corp's annual shareholders meeting. The company had grown another 40% under my leadership, but that wasn't why all eyes were fixed on the stage. It was because of what I was about to announce. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the packed auditorium. Today marks a new chapter for Davidson Corporation. Our legal division, under the leadership of Amanda Davidson, has not only saved this company billions, but has set new industry standards for ethical corporate practice. In the front row, Amanda sat straight-backed but humble, a posture that would have been unimaginable a year ago. Next to her, our parents watched with a pride that was different now, quieter, more genuine, unburdened by artificial expectations. Therefore, I continued, the board has unanimously approved the creation of the Davidson Ethics in Business Institute, with Amanda Davidson as its founding director. The applause was thunderous. Amanda's eyes widened. This was news to her. Over the past year, she transformed from a scheming corporate lawyer into someone who genuinely championed ethical business practices. Her redemption story had become legend in corporate circles. Additionally, I added once the applause died down, I'm pleased to announce that Davidson Corp will be funding law school scholarships for students committed to corporate ethics. The first recipient, I smiled. The young intern who first flagged the illegal practices at Amanda's former firm. More applause. In the audience, that intern, now a first-year associate in Amanda's team, blushed furiously. After the meeting, my family gathered in my office. The dynamic had shifted dramatically over the past year. No more power plays, no more condescension, no more artificial hierarchy of success. An ethics institute. Amanda shook her head, still processing. James, I don't deserve. You earned it, I corrected. Every day for the past year, making the hard choices, doing things right. Under your guidance, she added softly. Under your own conscience, I countered. Once you stop trying to be what they, I nodded toward our parents, expected. Mom stepped forward. We were so wrong for so long. About both of you. No, I smiled. You were wrong about success, about what it looks like, how it's achieved. But you raised two children, who ultimately found their way to something real. Dad cleared his throat. The scholarship program, naming it after the intern who exposed wrongdoing. That's quite a statement. It's the right statement, Amanda replied before I could. Integrity matters more than image. James taught me that. I watched my sister, really watched her. Gone was the designer-clad shark, who'd once sneered at her secretary brother. In her place stood a woman, who'd learned that true success came from building something meaningful, not just profitable. The institute will need a board of directors, I mentioned casually. I thought Mom and Dad might be interested in serving. Bring their legal expertise to something new. They straightened, understanding the offer. A chance to be part of this transformed legacy, to help shape ethical business practices, instead of just chasing traditional success. We'd be honored, Mom said quietly, to be part of what both our children have built. Different paths, Dad added, both extraordinary. Amanda touched a new nameplate on her desk. Director Davidson Ethics Institute. A year ago, I thought I was at the top. Had no idea my little brother would show me what real achievement looks like. Had no idea your little brother owned the building you worked in, I teased. She laughed, a real laugh, not the condescending one from before. Had no idea about a lot of things. But I learned. We all did, Mom said. Outside my office windows, the city stretched toward the horizon, a landscape shaped by Davidson Corp's influence, now transformed by our commitment to ethical business. My sister's redemption, our parents' evolution, my own journey from hidden success to acknowledged leader. So, I smiled at my family, ready to build something new. Together this time. Their answers didn't matter. I could see it in their faces. We'd all found our way to something real, something lasting, something built on truth, rather than appearances. Sometimes the biggest success isn't in what you build, but in who you become while building it. The end.